A 120,000 years ago, elk entered North America. These two continents, separated by a large ocean, became joined as huge glaciers expanded in the polar regions, dropping ocean levels by as much as 300 feet. This drop in water levels created an immense land bridge between these two formerly divided continents, and allowed the red deer, or elk, to cross into North America. By the time the European settlers arrived on this continent in the late 15th century, the elk, or as the Native Americans called them, the Wapiti, were the most numerous and abundant of the hoofed animals, with some population estimates as high as 10 million. As human populations and expansion moved westward, the elk's habitat shrank in size to what it now is today. Populations now are relatively stable at approximately 500,000 animals. Summer, a time of ease and plentiful food sources. With the coming of summer, winter coats are shed. This gives the elk a very shaggy look, as clumps of tattered hair fall off the sides and neck, triggered not by warm days, but by the amount of light and the length of the day. New summer coats emerge, lighter in weight and color, which help repel the sun's warm rays. The elk can tolerate more heat than its cousin, the mule deer. Whereas deer seek shelter from the midday sun in the sanctuary of trees, the elk can sweat more to cool off. On very warm days, though, the elk may go to north-facing slopes with the shelter of trees. Sometimes they may just stand in streams or ponds to cool off, or even lay in a wallow of mud and cover themselves with it. This covering of wet mud draws off body heat and also protects from biting insects. Bull elk also gain an extra cooling system with their antlers, as heat is given off by the blood running through the velvet covering. The elk spends about 85% of its day feeding on a variety of grasses and sedges. During this time, they feed in the morning, afternoon, evening, and in the middle of the night, frequently bedding down right where they feed. During the spring and early summer, small rodent dens can become very popular with elk. As ground squirrels leave their droppings near their holes, this area has a tendency to green up first, thus attracting foraging elk. Food is abundant during the summer, and the elk must take advantage of it now to put on body weight, which will eventually help to sustain them through the breeding season and the winter. From April on, bulls begin growing antlers, which are the fastest growing bone known to science. While they are growing, over the next 4 months or so, they are covered in a soft, hairy-looking sheath called velvet. Blood vessels in this skin covering provide nourishment to the growing antlers. This covering is also very sensitive, and damaging it now could hinder growth or produce odd-looking racks. By the time summer comes to an end, mature bull elk have grown very impressive racks. Up until this time, bulls are either alone or form small groups of males known as bachelor herds. By midsummer, the cows and calves start forming nursery groups. Elk are extremely social animals among their own species, and also use this grouping as a means of defense. While most of the herd is feeding, their heads are down. Thus, their eyes could be below the level of the grasses. This can make grazing animals very susceptible to a predator, such as the mountain lion. Lions in northwestern Montana have killed 4 times as many elk as any other predator, and can successfully take elk of any age. In the elk herd, 1 or 2 cows usually remain on alert as sentries, and with their keen senses, watch, listen, or smell the presence of a predator. This allows the other elk in the herd to spend most of their time feeding. Two approaching coyotes quickly alert the elk as they move near the herd. While the coyotes move closer, other elk become aware of these unwanted visitors. The coyotes are uninterested in the elk. The cow elk are too big, have sharp hooves to attack if necessary, and they're faster. The spring calves now are grown enough to evade them also. Small rodents are an easier and safer meal right now. Although an elk's best defense is to run, they have been known to chase coyotes out of their feeding or bedding grounds, with the coyote obviously putting up little resistance. As the coyotes pass on by with their feeding activities, the herd relaxes and basks in the midday sun. Young calves, full of energy and life, find time to play. This is not only fun for them, but develops coordination and strength in the young calves to evade predators later on. As summer comes to a close, there's a chill in the air. A small storm drops a light blanket of snow in the high mountains. The trees, affected by the below freezing temperatures, begin to change, painting the landscape with the brilliant colors of fall. Strange, haunting, bugling sounds can be heard echoing off the mountains and into the valleys below. The Elk Rut has arrived. Every year, in early to mid-September, the elk become embroiled in their annual mating ritual, creating an exciting and magical display. Mature bulls, which have been quiet, reclusive denizens of the woods, suddenly begin to appear around the herds of cows. As the cows start to come into estrus, or their breeding cycle, hormonal changes are triggered in the bulls. To view the rut, one would conclude that it resembles some form of game or tournament, where contestants show off and posture themselves for the females, only to be outdone by another challenger. The winner gains the right to breed. Of course, the cow may not be susceptible to his advances. By September, a bull elk's antlers are fully grown. He removes the last of the velvet covering by rubbing his antlers on trees and bushes, revealing a polished set of hard bone. Antlers are a means of garnering status and recognition within the herd. And although size is important, the way the bull displays his rack with body language is equally important. Twisting, turning, raising and lowering his head all add to his visibility, majesty, and ultimate herd dominance. These 700-pound-plus bulls also urinate all over their necks, legs, and stomachs, creating a strong, musky odor which can be smelled from some distance away. This too can also be accompanied by ripping up more vegetation. A preorbital gland next to the eye will deposit an additional musky scent all over this tree, further advertising this bull's presence to the cows and to any challengers. The sounds of trees cracking and breaking, along with the visual marks left, are a strong signpost for all bull elk who pass by. Sometimes a bull will spar with trees in a show of irritation, frustration, or a show of pure power. Trees that are stripped of the bark are a good sign of recent rutting activity. Bulls also tear up the ground around them in an effort to gain attention and release pent-up energy. The huge antlers make short work of the grass and dirt. With all this running, moving, and rutting activity, these bulls become overheated. Bulls will also excavate holes in the ground with their antlers, urinate in this plowed-up mud, and then lay down and roll around. This serves a twofold purpose. The wet mud will help to cool the elk, and a layer of this foul-smelling mud is applied to their bodies, thereby increasing their olfactory presence that much more. By now, a large bull has made quite a visual statement. Bugling is an audible form of advertising for the large bulls. Studies have revealed that bull elk which bugle with the most frequency, intensity, and volume are usually the most successful in breeding and controlling their harem of cows. Despite popular myths, the size of the bulls, except for maybe a spike elk, cannot be determined by the sound of their bugling or the volume. Battles between bulls are infrequent at best. Most so-called fights that are witnessed may just be a couple of younger bulls sparring with each other. This is a warm-up or practicing time early in their lives for the day when they may really confront another trophy-class bull trying to woo their cows away. These fights are pretty much harmless. This bull is tired from the rut and is trying to rest. Sometimes smaller bulls, like this one, enter into a herd's area without seeing the dominant bull. However, the herd bull sees the smaller elk and starts to walk toward it slowly. The smaller bull comes closer yet, hoping to woo a cow. This meeting will end painlessly, as the smaller bull trots off, intimidated by the posturing and size of the herd bull. As with many bull encounters, the only activity was a loss of energy, as the one bull showed the other who was boss. Of course, energy is something the herd bull has little to spare, especially as the rut wears on. Confrontations between two bulls of the same size are usually brief. Some head and antler gyrations, eye contact with each other, a few clashes of the antlers, and dominance is established. The end result of all this hormonal activity is an animal that smells foul, is wild-eyed, covered in mud, extremely vocal and ready for just about anything that crosses its path. A truly magnificent sight. For all this, a cow still listens to the bugles for clues as to the size of her suitor. His bugle, like a human voice, is as individual as he is, advertising his presence, fitness, and hopefully his abilities to the females and the other bulls around. She will also check out the size of his antlers and the size of his body. She too knows what she wants and will only mate with the best. While all this is happening, other cows and calves in the herd seem completely oblivious to the antics going on. Mothers still nurse their young, as bulls try to keep the herd rounded up and in order. Other cows lay bedded down, while magpies walk on them, eating ticks and other annoying insect parasites off their ears and bodies. Still, other cows feed, unconcerned as the bull chases a cow. All the while, the bull manages to keep the herd rounded up, as cows, patiently and without concern, tolerate his behavior. When a cow finally does come into estrus, the bull will follow her closely, licking his nose to try and identify the right time. The bull must be absolutely ready, for the cow is only receptive to mating for less than 24 hours. Once the female is receptive, breeding is quick and over quite fast. The rut, which can last through the middle of October, is the last time for a year when mature bulls and females will be together. The females and calves move off to typical feeding grounds, and mature bulls, exhausted from the weeks of the rut, move off to a much-needed, solitary and quiet existence. Bulls do not have the time to feed while in the rut, and may lose considerable body weight. The price for breeding anywhere from a dozen to several dozen cows can mean a death sentence for the bull, as the winter can take a harsh toll on the majestic animals. As it is with nature, the bull has done his job and passed on his genes. The weather changes and snow falls. Heavy snow sends a signal to the elk that their annual winter migration is to begin. As the snow reaches 1 foot in depth, cows and calves begin their trek to lower elevations, where the snow is not as deep or mostly non-existent. As it is in the winter, the moose also head for lower country to feed on the frozen remnants of the willow. These elk still have to feed from day to day, and foraging for food can require more energy than before. Pawing through the snow reveals blades of grass. All this consumes more energy than before. More storms erupt. This storm stalls a herd of elk on their journey out. If the weather is extremely severe and the elk wait too long, this year's calves can wear themselves out walking in heavy snow. Energy is conserved as the elk just wait out this storm. Cows Cows and bulls often move to different habitats for their winter ranges. While bulls may retreat to higher, snow-covered meadows where food is adequate, but not necessarily as nutritious, the cows and calves migrate into areas with south-facing slopes to take advantage of the more nutritious grasses exposed by the warm sun. Behavior such as this results in a better survival rate for the cows and calves. The elk are known to eat less in the winter and rest more, expending energy only to forage for grasses. By using their hooves to dig through the snow, the elk may use more energy than what they gain from the food they are eating. If the snow gets deeper than a foot or so, the elk may move to another range or begin browsing on bushes or shrubs. The elk also have a winter coat that is unique. In September, the summer coat is shed and replaced with the winter coat. These coats are darker in color to help absorb the sun's rays for warmth, and the hairs themselves are honeycombed with thousands of tiny air pockets which trap the heat and insulate them from the cold. These coats are so effective that falling snow may not even melt on the backs of elk, or can allow this bull to playfully knock snow from the trees, oblivious to the cold. These abilities allow elk to endure all but the harshest of winters, and they will usually do quite well, as long as the winter is not a long one. Bulls, on the other hand, may not fare so well. A bull that has expended large amounts of energy during the rut may not survive the winter. Already weakened from the rut, this bull is forced to sustain itself on branches and twigs, not very nutritious. Signs of starvation are already present on the sides of this bull, as ribs begin to show. This magnificent animal will probably succumb to the rigors of winter. Whenever there are herds of animals congregating in the winter, the coyote is not very far away. An opportunist, the coyote will diligently follow herds of elk, instinctively knowing that sooner or later the sick, injured, or weak will die and provide nourishment. Coyotes typically will form in groups of 2 or more in the winter. They usually do not hunt an animal down, as a pack of wolves might do, but patiently wait for an animal to die. The coyote may wait several days for an animal to succumb, and this method of patiently waiting is far safer than taking on a weakened elk. For the elk still has sharp hooves, and these are a formidable weapon. The coyote is not a very large predator. The coyote is an efficient and thorough predator. Within days, a pack of coyotes can reduce an elk carcass to bones. Individual coyotes may feed side by side, tolerating each other's presence. Disagreements do occur frequently and are usually driven by a coyote which stays too long at the carcass or breaks some unseen rules of behavior. At this point, outright skirmishes can and do happen. Heads are lowered, fangs are bared, growling noises erupt, and dominance is asserted. Rarely are confrontations more violent than this, as aggressive visual and audible displays usually settle the dispute. Competition becomes more intense if there is a shortage of elk carcasses. As winter begins to move on to spring, the coyotes and ravens clean up the last of the carcasses. Meat is consumed first, then bones, leaving only the hide as evidence of a living creature. Although some elk have succumbed to the winter, they have also provided life for the coyote and other predators. The range can only support a given number of animals. Days slowly become longer, and the sun begins to warm the frozen landscape. Small rivulets of water turn into creeks, which then turn into rivers. These circumstances can create obstacles and dangers to the elk as they begin their migrations back to their summer ranges. Rivers swollen with the rushing waters of the new spring thaw can be a formidable barrier to the elk. Throughout the area, life begins to emerge. A calf elk watches as mom goes by in the river, choosing to stay put rather than to jump in, not quite sure of its new legs. Spring flowers begin to dot the landscape, painting the elk's range with vibrant colors. For the elk who have gone through the winter, the lush green grasses are a welcome sight, and feeding schedules are quickly becoming the majority of the day's activities once again. The elk begin to gain weight as the new grasses offer up more nutrients. For the females who became pregnant during the last rut, the grasses and sedges are much needed to allow the calf elk inside to grow, for the winter depletes the cows of their fat reserves and body weight. From mid-May to mid-June, elk calves are born. This generally coincides with the nutritious grasses that are growing to provide nourishment for the elk. When a cow is ready to give birth, she moves away from the herd to be on her own. This helps her to avoid predators such as the coyote, which may have learned to follow herds. The cow may select a site in open areas, in the thick brush, or in trees to have her calf. After her calf is born, the cow keeps the calf clean by licking it all over. This keeps the calf free of odors and makes it harder for the predators to find it. The newborn calf is slow to get up on its feet and can't run very fast. Its best defense is to lay motionless. Absolute stillness will ensure safety. With its spotted coat providing camouflaging in the grass or bushes, and its lack of an odor, many predators pass right on by, oblivious to the fact that a young elk is bedded there. The cow will also feed at a distance, usually out of sight, but certainly within hearing distance. If danger in the form of a predator comes close, cows have been known to attack with their hooves and chase a predator away. She will return a few times each day to nurse her newborn. While nursing, she will also clean up the calf again. Each day's milk allows the calf to grow strong and fast. However, even with all these instinctive behaviors, the first 3 or 4 weeks are critical in its survival. Many calves are lost to predators such as the mountain lion, coyote, or bear. If grizzly bears are a part of the ecosystem, the young that are not fast enough or lucky enough will not survive an encounter with a grizzly. Grizzlies are a powerful predator. On wobbly legs, this newborn explores the new world around it. As time passes, these calves will make longer and longer journeys following their mothers until they are old enough to join the herd. This calf has given up its safe hiding place and is walking about, a dangerous adventure without the protection of a cow. Small, audible cries coming from the calf could also betray its position to a wary predator. Even at a distance, a predator's hearing is extremely acute. The calf's cries have stirred another young elk from its hiding place in the bushes. Joining up together seems natural, but still provides no further protection than before. And now 2 calves are in jeopardy of being discovered. As one calf walks off in an attempt to call its mother, the other calf heads in another direction. The cow, who is over a nearby hill, arrives on the scene, searching for her calf. As she sniffs the calf to determine if it is hers, the other calf rushes in also. Maternal instincts tell her that she will only care for one of these calves, and the other belongs to another cow. She now knows her calf and will leave the other calf in the field to be rescued by its own mother or to become food for a predator. This is the way it is. Few animals offer up thoughts as mighty as the elk. Although numbers will never reach the historic numbers of 400 or 500 years ago because of loss of habitat, we now have more elk than at any time in the last 100 years. During this time, the elk has managed to endear itself by providing a source of economic gain through tourism in some areas, and by providing a source of beauty to look at. For whatever the reason to appreciate the existence of this wondrous creature, it can be said that they truly are majestic.